Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Willett, and I'm the VP of Strategy for Bay Dynamics. We help the world's largest organizations quickly identify and prioritize their top risks and threats. Specifically, we help them find their top insider threats. These are malicious users that are internal to their organizations that are either actively trying to steal data or cause some type of a disruption. We also find the outsider threats. These are malicious users on the outside, or malicious people on the outside that are attempting to breach the perimeter and get access to the sensitive stuff internally. We also monitor the high privilege users for anomalous behaviors. These would be your service accounts, your administrative accounts, database administrators, those types of things. We make sure that they're doing just what they're supposed to do and no more. And then lastly, we take a look at the attack surface of your most sensitive assets. What we do is we take a look at the vulnerabilities that could potentially lead to a compromise. We've all seen the breach headlines. These are large organizations that over the past year have bubbled up in the newspapers and in the news. We've seen so many of these that there's actually a new term that's been coined. It's called breach fatigue. Now, these are large organizations that are getting breached, and the question really is, why is this happening? Is it because they lack security investment? No, in fact, they probably outspend all of you in their security investments. They have all the toys, all the technology. Is it because there's a lack of maybe process maturity? No, we all know these are big organizations, and we know large organizations have very established processes. So it's not because of that. Is it because maybe they're not certified? No, every one of them has been certified to external industry standards. PCI, HIPAA, you name it. They have all of these. So what's missing here? What's happening within these environments? Well, the security reality today is that we deploy and operate our security solutions as individual point solutions. In fact, just like the puzzle pieces, they're unassembled. They operate independent of each other. There's no connections between them. And what's really important here is that the attackers know this is what's going on. And so they'll hide in the noise. They'll hide in between the puzzle pieces because there's no communication, there's no link. Now, you can build a link, but you have to do it manually. Essentially, you have to assemble all of these pieces, all of these elements together manually to get a big picture. And that's where these attackers will hide for a very long period of time undetected. In fact, most organizations don't find out that they've been breached until well along 6 months after the breach has happened. And what's particularly embarrassing is that usually they don't find out using their own tools. Usually it's some external party, some third-party partner, or a client, or maybe even a federal agency like the FBI that will contact them to let them know, hey, by the way, I'm seeing some weird things happening within your environment. You might want to check it out. And that's really embarrassing because they've deployed all these tools. Again, these are not small organizations that are in the news. They've deployed all of these solutions and all of these tools. So the question is, why is this happening? Well, it's that link, it's that communication, it's the tying in of all these solutions that's missing. It's building that storyline. And that's where Risk Fabric comes in. Risk Fabric leverages all of the existing information that you have within your environment. It looks at your endpoint security information, it looks at your data loss prevention, it looks at cloud security vulnerability, and actually builds that picture. It takes all of the puzzle pieces and puts them all together in a coherent picture that you can then analyze and review to see if there's anything anomalous or anything weird. And how Risk Fabric does that is it actually leverages this PSI engine, the Predictive Security Intelligence engine. It's an automatic anomaly detection engine that builds the picture and over time monitors the picture to see if there are any changes, however subtle. Because again, that's where the attackers are going to be. They'll make subtle little changes that our normal eyes will not find, but Risk Fabric will be able to find. And what's particularly interesting about Risk Fabric is it's able to do this with no consulting, no configuration, no tuning, and no agents. And so what we have here is an environment where we leverage critical component analysis and next-gen predictive analytics. And what I'd like to do is demonstrate Risk Fabric for you now. So here what I'll do is I'll leverage Risk Fabric to identify a malicious user that is actually hiding in the noise. So we'll demonstrate this as part of this. So as part of my demonstration, what we have is a typical environment. So we've got data loss prevention that's been deployed. And we have rules that have been built into the solution. So we're looking for credit card numbers, and in particular, credit card numbers that would be sent out over email. Now, the catch with this is that our IT department has had to tune down the severity of this, because it turns out that one of our groups is actually sending out credit cards through email on a regular basis. And so 99.9% of the events are actually showing up as false positive. So let's see where Risk Fabric can come in and maybe try to help out here. So here I have my Risk Fabric console. I can go in and actually look at remediations. And here in my console, I have DLP remediations, compliance remediations, and I can also look at scans for system breaches or potential issues with systems. So let's take a look at DLP remediations. I'm now presented with a very intuitive dashboard. And what's interesting here is that I can see that Humphrey has a number of issues that have been brought up, and all of them have been put together as part of a single case or a single finding. So if I click on Humphrey, I can see what's going on with these events, and let's take a look here. We can see that, oh, we've got credit card numbers that are being sent out over email, and again, the severity here is low because the DLP system tells us that this is a low severity event because, again, of all the false positives. But Risk Fabric is actually able to cut through the noise and find something interesting. The interesting part is that this is highly unusual for Humphrey. This is not something that should be happening. It's also unusual for Humphrey's team or peer group. And so those are the elements that you'd have to manually try to find, and you'd never find this stuff if you were trying to do this by yourself. But Risk Fabric actually pulls it up very quickly. What I can do is I can remediate all of the incidents, and then I can trigger an escalation. That's the end of the demo. So within less than a minute, I was able to cut through the noise. I was able to find all of the important events that are hiding within the normal day-to-day activities of my users and my environment. I could have done that very easily with outsider threats. I could have repeated the same thing with high-privileged users, and I could have also looked at the attack surfaces, so my most sensitive assets, and determine if any of them have any vulnerabilities or anything outstanding that I need to look at. Also, I could have triggered an automatic remediation. So in the demo here, I did it manually, but I could have triggered an automatic remediation. So for example, if it's the first time that Humphrey's done anything like this, what I could have triggered is a just-in-time training, which would have then brought Humphrey to a just-in-time training. He goes through a training module, and then in the end, I could monitor Humphrey afterwards to see if he goes back and does his bad behavior. And if he does, then I can trigger a different type of remediation at that time. That's automatic as well. We have a great threat detector that's available for all of you. It's proof of value in your environment using your data in 5 days. In 5 days, we'll give you this type of insight. A lot of our new clients, we brought them on board using this, and they were completely surprised at how simple the process was. And more importantly, they were completely surprised at the fact that within 5 days, we were able to give them this level of insight. I would like to thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing all of you at the exhibition show floor. Thank you very much.